Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India slams Pakistan at UN for unjustified claims. Indian envoy says Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. US President Donald Trump says he held very good and productive discussions with Russian President on ceasefire deal in Ukraine. Adds good vibes coming out of Russia. Putin too praises Donald Trump. US Congress averts government shutdown after Senate passes bill to continue funding government through September. Mark Carney, sworn in as Prime Minister of Canada, also reshapes his 24-person cabinet, cutting almost half ministerial positions. India slammed Pakistan at UN for its unjustified claims, delivering India's statement at the meeting to commemorate the International Day to Combat Islamophobia. India's permanent representative to the UN, Parvatneni Harish, said that Jammu and Kashmir was, is and will always be an integral part of India.
The former Foreign Secretary of Pakistan today has made an unjustified reference to the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Frequent references will neither validate their claim nor justify their practice of cross-border terrorism. The fanatical mindset of this nation is well known, as also its record of bigotry. Such efforts will not change the reality that Jammu and Kashmir was, is and will always be an integral part of India.
And while condemning the religious intolerance against Muslims, the Indian envoy also noted that religious discrimination is a broader challenge that affects followers of all faiths.
We stand united with the UN membership in condemning incidents of religious intolerance against Muslims. However, it's also imperative to recognize that religious discrimination is a broader challenge that affects followers of all faiths. We strongly believe that the path to meaningful progress lies in acknowledging that religiophobia in its various forms threatens the fabric of our diverse global society.
And earlier on Friday, India strongly rejected Pakistan's baseless allegations on the Balochistan train hijacking. India's Ministry of External Affairs has urged Pakistan to address its internal issues and terrorism emanating from its soil. DD India's Mihir Mekhuri gives us the context in this report.
As Pakistan struggles with a multitude of issues, both internal and external, India's Ministry of External Affairs has taken a firm stand on Pakistan, pointing fingers at India in fueling unrest in Balochistan, a region long known for its independence movement from Pakistan. India's Ministry of External Affairs responded with a strong statement. We strongly reject the baseless allegations made by Pakistan. The whole world knows where the epicenter of global terrorism lies. Pakistan should look inwards instead of pointing fingers and shifting the blame for its own internal problems and failures onto others. India's rebuttal came shortly after the hijacking of the Jafar Express by the Balochistan Liberation Army, or the BLA, which killed more than 24 hostages during its 30-hour journey from Quetta to Peshawar. The BLA, one of many armed rebel groups in the mineral-rich southwestern region of Pakistan, is fighting for Balochistan's independence, citing the region's forced integration into Pakistan. Religious and ethnic minorities like Balochs, Ahmadiyas, Christians and Hindus have been suffering in Pakistan for decades. A recent congressional briefing in Washington, D.C. highlighted the widespread discrimination these groups face in Pakistan. Journalists, politicians, cricketers and members of various faiths gathered to shed light on the persecution of these communities.
मेरे साथ भी ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन वाली चीज़ हुई है, बहुत ज़्यादा हुई है, मेरे कैरियर को तबाह किया है, ख़त्म किया है और जिसकी वजह से जो इज़्ज़त इक्वल वैल्यूज़ मुझे मिलनी चाहिए थी वो नहीं मिली पाकिस्तान में, जिसकी वजह से हम यूएस में हैं अभी.
We are here all together to speak against Pakistani government who are pressuring for minority religion, and as well as people who don't have any voice, and especially we're talking about the women who are suffering in Pakistan, in the country that who pressuring and women and against the minority religion.
And I'm here to support the Hindus and their struggle, to get human rights, their struggle to stop the atrocities that are happening in Pakistan on the Hindu minorities. Many girls are being coerced to convert their religion. There has been kidnapping that has happened of Hindu people. And I am here to demand that the State Department take action, economic actions, sanctions against Pakistan.
Ultimately, the responsibility to improve conditions for ethnic and religious minorities in Pakistan rests with the country itself. How quickly Pakistan can address these issues remains uncertain, and only time will tell. Mihir Makri's report for DD India.
And US President Donald Trump said on Friday that there is a strong possibility the Russia-Ukraine conflict could end following productive discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday. In a Truth Social post, Trump said he requested Putin to spare the lives of completely surrounded Ukrainian troops, expressing hope for a resolution to the horrible war. And US President Donald Trump departed Joint Base Andrews for Mar-a-Lago on Friday, accompanied by Elon Musk and his son, X-12. Trump left the White House speaking to reporters beforehand. He expressed optimism about Russia anticipating a deal in the Ukraine conflict. Trump's remarks came as he boarded Air Force One heading to his Florida residence. The surprise appearance of Musk and his son added intrigue to the president's departure, sparking curiosity about their conversation.
We've had some pretty good news coming out of Russia. We're hearing good things. Who knows? But we're hearing good things. They're in a very strong position militarily with quite a few Ukrainian soldiers, but hopefully nothing will happen with that. I've asked them not to let anything happen, and I hope that nothing happens. In the field, there's a very vulnerable group of Ukrainian soldiers right now that are actually surrounded, and that's not good because we don't want them to die. Enough people have died. So we'll see what happens with regard to all of it. But I'm getting, from the standpoint about a ceasefire and ultimately a deal, some pretty good vibes coming out of Russia.
While addressing the opening session of his Security Council meeting, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that Russia would spare the lives of Ukrainian soldiers in the Kursk region if Kiev orders them to surrender. The statement came after Donald Trump urged Putin to prevent massacre there. Putin also praised Trump for doing everything to improve US-Russia relations.
We know that the new administration headed by President Trump is doing everything to restore at least something of what was practically reduced to zero, destroyed by the previous American administration. This process is not simple, if not complicated, but nevertheless, as everyone knows. I had a telephone conversation with President Trump. The first contacts of our Minister of Foreign Affairs with his American counterpart took place, and the Russian presidential aide Ushakov met with his counterparts. So in general, the situation is starting to move. Let us see what comes out of it.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that he saw a good chance to end the war with Russia after Ukraine accepted a US proposal for a 30-day interim ceasefire on Friday.
A lot of diplomacy, a lot of negotiations that can bring peace closer. Now on the table is the American proposal of unconditional silence in the sky, at sea and on the front. Ukraine accepts this proposal. Rapid movements towards guaranteed security, towards the end of this war, towards a reliable peace. Our team works very well at the meeting in Saudi Arabia. Contacts with the American sides are ongoing.
Zelensky also mentioned that he had discussed the state of diplomacy, the potential options and the technical details of overseeing a ceasefire with French President Emmanuel Macron, stressing that Ukraine has solid support from France.
Today I spoke with the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel, as always, clearly knows all the details, offers good ideas. We analyze the state of diplomacy today, the possibility that exists. We talked about the technical aspects of controlling the silence, about possible steps in diplomacy and in protecting our people or Europe, security guarantees, the situation on the ground, the possible development of the situation in all this. We have clear support from France.
And the G7 on Friday reaffirmed their unwavering support for Ukraine in defending its territorial integrity. In the final statement from a meeting in Canada, the group of powerful democracies warned Russia that it could face further sanctions if it doesn't back a US-led ceasefire effort, while stressing the need for credible security arrangements to guard against Russian aggression. The group of 7 ministers, along with the European Union, held meeting in the remote tourist town of La Malbaie, nestled in the Quebec Hills, on Thursday and Friday.
Long conversations, we were able to find strong G7 unity on a variety of issues that were discussed, and one that I would like to highlight in particular is the one linked to Ukraine.
And in a dramatic turn of events, the US Senate passed a stopgap spending bill on Friday, averting a partial government shutdown. The bill, which was approved 54-46, will now head to US President Donald Trump's desk for signature. The move comes after Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer broke the logjam, deciding to vote for the bill despite opposition from his party. Schumer's decision was driven by concerns that the government shutdown would be catastrophic. The bill will maintain spending at $6.75 trillion for the fiscal year ending September 30th. However, will cut spending by $7 billion. The US military will receive an additional $6 billion, while non-defense programs will be reduced by $13 billion. Schumer's move has sparked criticism from within his party, with many Democrats expressing anger over the bill. The move has also exposed deep divisions within the party. And heavy rainfall caused widespread flooding and landslides in Italy's Tuscany and Emilia-Romagna on Friday, prompting authorities to extend a red weather alert. Streets have turned into torrents of mud, homes have been inundated, and rescue teams are working to evacuate people trapped by rising waters. In Sesto Fortino, the Rimaggiu stream overflowed, flooding multiple buildings. President of Tuscany region, Eugenio Gianni, has called for civil protection assistance as weather conditions are expected to improve gradually, although risk persists in certain areas. And Bolivia is facing a severe crisis, with long queues forming in La Paz due in fears of scarcity of basic goods and a worsening fuel shortage. People have been lining up outside supermarkets since early morning to buy essential items at inflated prices, fearing that food may go out of stock. Citizens express frustration over the shortages and the long lines, drawing parallels with economic struggles in Cuba and Venezuela. The government has introduced measures to mitigate the crisis, including reducing the use of official vehicles and promoting remote work and virtual classes. The fuel shortage has attributed to a decline in foreign currency reserves over the last decade and dwindling local gas production. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says alliance's members needed to produce more weapons. Thousands of Serbian anti-government protesters converge on Belgrade for major rally. And NASA SpaceX launched Crew 10 from Florida to relieve stranded astronauts at space station.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Mark Carney, the former central banker, was sworn in as Canada's Prime Minister on Friday. After being sworn in, Carney expressed his willingness to collaborate with US President Donald Trump, who is promising tariffs that could devastate the Canadian economy. Carney made it clear that his approach would differ, emphasizing respect for Trump's priorities and noting their previous cooperation at international meetings. Carney also restructured his cabinet, reducing the number of ministerial positions.
I look forward to speaking with President Trump. Just to be clear, we respect the United States. We respect President Trump. President Trump has put some very important issues at the top of his agenda. We understand his agenda. We understand the importance of addressing the scourge of fentanyl, which is a challenge here in Canada as well as the United States. And I would say that the measures that have been put in place in recent weeks in Canada and Mexico, also the United States, means that we are making tremendous progress.
Now, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has said the alliance's members needed to produce more weapons and were lagging behind Russia and China. Speaking in the Oval Office during a visit with President Donald Trump, Rutte said the alliance was not doing enough to the issue of weapons production.
To produce more weaponry, we are not doing enough. And not in the US, not in Europe, and we are lacking behind when you compare to the Russians and the Chinese. And you have a huge defense industrial base. Europeans buying 4 times more here than the other way around, which is good because you have a strong defense industry, but we need to do more there to make sure that we ramp up the production. The Germans now.
Shifting focus to Europe now, Germany's likely next Chancellor Friedrich Merz on Friday announced that a deal to drastically overhaul the country's debt rules to allow a boom in defense and security spending, as well as 500 billion euros in infrastructure investment in the coming 12 years. His Conservatives and their prospective Social Democrat coalition partners reached agreement with the Greens to exempt spending above 1% of GDP on defense and security.
Germany is back. Germany is making a major contribution to the defense of freedom and peace in Europe. We agreed on the proposal that defense spending, but also federal spending on civil protection and protection of the population, spending on the intelligence services, spending on security and information and technology, and spending on aid for states attacked in violation of international law should be exempt from the debt brake to the extent that they exceed 1% of our country's gross domestic product.
And protesters show rage on the eve of a mass demonstration in Belgrade as a rally against the government of President Alexander Vučić. The protest, which began in November, was sparked by the collapse of a railway station roof in Novi Sad that killed 15 people. Protesters expressed frustration and anger, calling end of corruption. Demonstrators blame the disaster on corruption under Vučić's rule. The movement has gained momentum, with students, teachers, farmers and workers joining the demonstrations, posing a significant challenge to Vučić's 12-year tenure as Prime Minister or President. Serbian authorities expect an even larger protest, expected to be the largest in Serbia over a decade. Serbian President Alexander Vučić has called for peace to be preserved at any price, urging restraint and stability.
The state of Serbia will take all necessary measures to guarantee peace. Those who disturb the peace will be arrested and severely punished. I will not allow anyone to destroy all the good things we have done. I will not allow them to destroy the future of this country.
And Hamas has agreed to release an American-Israeli dual national believed to be the last living American hostage held in Gaza after receiving a proposal from mediators to continue negotiations on the second phase of a ceasefire deal. Hamas, in a statement on Friday, said it responded positively to the proposal that was presented on Thursday to resume negotiations. It will also release the bodies of 4 other dual nationality hostages, it said, without giving further details. Israel, however, said Hamas had not budged following a proposal from US President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff. President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, told reporters at the White House early in March that gaining the release of Alexander was a top priority. And Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has said his country and Azerbaijan will not deploy third country forces along the border after the two sides sign a peace agreement. Pashinyan briefed Russian President Vladimir Putin on a finalized draft peace agreement with Azerbaijan in a phone call. Earlier, officials in Yerevan and Baku said they had agreed the text of a peace agreement to end more than 3 decades of conflict between their countries, a sudden breakthrough in a fitful and often bitter peace process. Russian peacekeepers completed a withdrawal last May from Karabakh, a region in Azerbaijan that had a mostly Armenian population and which Azeri forces recaptured in a lightning offensive in September 2023. But Moscow still has personnel in Armenia along its long border with Azerbaijan. Now, former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte appeared on a remote video link on Friday for his initial hearing at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where he faces murder allegations stemming from his war on drugs. Duterte arrived in the Netherlands on a flight from Manila on Wednesday and was taken into ICC custody after being arrested by authorities on an international criminal court warrant. Prosecutors have accused him of crimes against humanity for what they call a systematic attack on the civilian population. Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh on Friday. He assured refugees that he would continue advocating for international aid despite financial challenges. Guterres inspected camps, met with refugees and joined over 100,000 Rohingya Muslims for iftar. The ration supply has dropped from $12.5 to $6 due to US aid cuts. Over 50% of Rohingya refugee funding previously came from US assistance.
My voice will not end until the international community understands that they have the obligation to invest now to support the Rohingya refugees here in Bangladesh and to make sure that the people that already have suffered so much will not have an additional problem. We will do everything to solve the problem.
Now, NASA and SpaceX on Friday launched a long-awaited crew to the International Space Station that will let them bring home US astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who have been stuck on the orbital lab for 9 months. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, carrying 4 astronauts who will replace Wilmore and Williams, both of whom are veteran NASA astronauts and were the first to fly Boeing's BA and Starliner capsule to the ISS in June. The duo previously made history in June when they became the first to fly aboard Boeing's Starliner capsule to the ISS. However, during their flight, the Starliner encountered problems with this propulsion system, leading to a critical issue that forced an extension of their planned 8-day stay at the ISS and returned to Earth empty in September. They are scheduled to depart the ISS on March 19 after crew 10 astronauts arrived on the station late Saturday night. And World Consumer Rights Day is observed annually on March 15. It highlights the importance of consumer rights and protection. The day was first marked in 1983, inspired by President John F. Kennedy's 1962 speech. The 2025 theme is a just transition to sustainable lifestyles. It focuses on making sustainable choices accessible and affordable. The campaign calls for stronger consumer protection and empowerment. It emphasizes the need to uphold consumer rights globally. And the Indian Film Festival kicked off in Tashkent, Uzbekistan on Friday. The 4-day event dedicated to women is organized with support from India's Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in collaboration with the cinematography agency of Uzbekistan known as Uzbekino. Attendees included Ambassador of India to Uzbekistan Smita Pant and Director Shukhratullah Rizayev, Bollywood stars Abhishek Bachchan and Sayami Kher, along with directors R. Balki and Gauri Shinde were also present at the inauguration. And the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or ISKCON, in Nepal's Kathmandu Valley celebrated Gaur Purnima, a significant Hindu festival with great fervour. The festivities, held on the full moon of the Phagun month, featured a vibrant floral Holi fest and cultural performances. Thousands of devotees gathered to play Holi with flower petals, immersed in melodious devotional songs, creating a surreal and spiritual atmosphere. The celebration showcased the rich cultural heritage of the valley. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.